Alright guys, Danoodles here. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Nitecore Chameleon CI7 IR and visible flashlight. Just before we get this review underway, I just want to be transparent and say this flashlight was sent to me direct from Nitecore. So just for the sake of clarity, I just want to make that known. Personally, I think I'm going to be fairly unbiased in my review because I have no monetized value in this flashlight. I'm gonna give it a pretty tough beating, and we'll see how it comes out on the other side. So when you get your C17 flashlight from Nitecore, it comes in this nice little box here. As you can see, it says it is a 2500 lumen light. It is a 940 nanometers infrared wavelength. I'm not too sure about that, and we'll talk about why. It is claiming to be 2500 lumens. Max intensity is that many candela. Max range almost 300 meters. Waterproof up to 2 meters and drop proof up to 1. It shows all the information here. There you go. Oh, that's my warranty info. Alright. And as you can see up at the top here, it says it has a 5-year warranty. So when you get your flashlight, it comes in that nifty little box, and included is the flashlight itself. You also have a couple little accessories here, and you have this little pouch here. It's not really MOLLE, but it velcros on. You can put it onto a belt, or you can try to MOLLE it. Has a little D-ring there as well, but that's not too important. It does have a little lanyard here and a clip if you want to be able to pocket mount it, or carry it in a pocket, or mount it to MOLLE that way as well. You have that option. So to talk about the light itself, the main thing here is that it is an IR and visible flashlight. So as you can see here, you have 4 LEDs. They're fairly deep in there. They're cones, and they're cones there, so they should be half decent at throwing light down range, but it's not perfectly centered, so I don't think you're going to get a really nice hot spot. But what you do to change it is pretty nifty and interesting here, is you will pull out the light and then turn it a slight degree, and now you can see those are the IR LEDs, and it's really simple. You just pull it and twist it slightly, and it changes now from visible to IR, and you can go and keep turning it either direction, just one click, and it'll switch between the two. Now the setting controls, you have 2 buttons here on the rear. This is your on. Oh, that's your on. And then this guy will adjust your intensity settings. So that's your low setting, that's your medium, that's your high. Oh, and then there's your really high settings. So it's pretty simple. You just can adjust it through here. If you hold down the button there, it'll also go into a strobe setting as well. This light is powered by a single lithium. It is a 3000 milliamp battery. In my experience, Nitecore, they have pretty good 18650 batteries, so good to go. That was included with the light, but there was no charger. I had a charger sent as well with the light, but this was separate, but the battery was included in the light, so that's nice to have. And if you already have chargers, you don't need this. A lot of people now have several 18650 batteries and chargers. So as far as function and performance, it's pretty simple. It is a hefty light. It fills the whole hand, as you can see here. The length is pretty comparable to other EDC lights in my experience. Here's a Surefire EDC 2 here, and as you can see, we are pretty much the same size as far as height, but the girth on the Nitecore is much larger. So this is not really an ideal pocket carry flashlight, but the length is pretty standard. Now, the ease of function on these, I'm going to have to go with the Nitecore as well. It has a single click cap when this guy is a momentary cap that you retention. But that's comparing a visible only flashlight to a IR and visible flashlight. So a more direct comparison would be for this guy over here. This is a Surefire Vampire. Once again, fairly similar as far as height. The Nitecore is slightly longer, and once again, the diameter of the bezel here much larger on the Nitecore, but that might not be an issue if you're going to weapon mount it or you're going to have it in a pouch. And now we'll do a direct comparison. Here we have about 100 meters to the tree line. This is the Nitecore C17 on the high setting. This is the low setting, medium, high, extra high. As you can see, it's a fairly wide flood with a soft center beam. For a direct comparison, here's a Surefire Vampire. Not as wide of a flood, but a far brighter center beam. The Nitecore again. Then the Surefire. Side by side. As you can see, the Surefire has a slightly brighter center beam that you can kind of see through the Nitecore. Here we have the Nitecore under IR. This is the high setting. Low, medium, high. Here we have the Surefire. It's a significantly stronger beam that penetrates through the Nitecore. My first test for the Nitecore is to test how waterproof it is. So while this is by no means a scientific test, I'm going to submerge this light underwater for approximately 1 hour, and we'll come back and see how it does and if it can handle what is essentially just a decent soaking.
1 hour later.
So the light has sat in the water for over an hour, and as you can see, it's still completely functional. So on to the next test. So the next part of our durability test is a drop test. When we're comparing it to a Surefire, we're going to need to do more than the 1 meter drop that this is rated for. So yeet. Next test we're going to do is from approximately 10 feet off the bed of my pickup truck onto grass and packed dirt. Still functional. One more drop from the same height directly onto pavement. Right on the bezel, No cracked glass, still functional. Our final test is the classic meme of running it over, but this time we're going to be running it over with the front driver's side of a Toyota Tacoma. Alright guys, now I'll give my final thoughts and what I liked and don't like about this light. The things I do like about this light are the way that it is able to quickly change between IR and infrared at the switch of a bezel, while also being able to simultaneously leave it on, so you can go from IR to visible without having to turn it on and off. I do like the secondary buttons here, the option to push both buttons, and I do like how tough it is shown to be, and so all of those things are pretty nice. A few things I don't like. Main issue I have is that I think there are too many settings. I'm also not a fan of the strobe settings. I don't feel like a strobe is that necessary, and I think it's a relic of a past time. I don't think anybody uses strobes anymore. I might be wrong, but to my knowledge, it's not a very popular thing. And I don't ever see myself needing the middle of the road settings. I've always either wanted a full-on highest setting beam or the barely light up the room, kind of barely see at your feet kind of light. The in-between settings to me don't seem very useful, don't seem like things I'll ever want to use. So I feel like they could save a lot of the hassle by just having two settings and forgoing the strobe. But if Nitecore feels like those things are something that their customers may want, I guess that's up to them. Those are just my personal thoughts. I also don't believe that there is a pressure pad that you can have for this light. So if you're going to weapon mount it, you are stuck with these buttons. But in my opinion, they're more than capable of being used with a weapon mounted system. But a lot of people like the pressure pad, myself included. So that would be something nice to add as well. The last thing that I'm not a fan of is that although it is marketed as 940 nanometers wavelength, I don't believe that is the case. I don't know if you can see here, the camera shows is picking it up, and you can faintly see with the visible eye a slight red glow. So what that's telling me is that it is on the lower end, at least it is emitting infrared on the lower end of the spectrum, like most LED infrared flashlights. So it's in that 850 nanometer wavelength instead of the 940 like it's advertised. Not a huge problem. Most other flashlights like this are going to also be in the same wavelength. It's just a little bit of an marketing issue, and I think that should be something that they should fix, at least going forward, because I don't believe this is actually a 940 nanometer wavelength infrared flashlight. Now, as far as a direct comparison with the Nitecore versus the Surefire, the Surefire has a long track record to be a proven and tested light, so it's not really a fair comparison. This guy has been battle tested, and the performance is pretty much unmatched as far as any light is concerned. So it's never going to live up to the Surefire. And if you need a duty light and you're on the border between, well, should I get this or should I get this, I'm always going to recommend the Surefire. But at half the price than the Vampire, this guy MSRP is around $129 versus $260 plus for a Surefire Vampire. It's definitely something to consider if you're just looking for a toy, or you are looking for something to pair with a Surefire Vampire, maybe a handheld light, something you'll carry on a belt. even for duty use. This could be a secondary option. So it would be in place of maybe getting a second vampire to carry on your person while having a weapon mounted one. This could be an option. Or if you are just looking for a hog hunting light, definitely something along this lines would be more than adequate. And I don't want to say this is an unreliable light, and I will continue to test it, but I just can't. I can't say that it's going to be more reliable than a Surefire. Maybe 10 years of this thing kicking and not having any major issues. Who knows? But once again, the quality control and just build material is probably not going to be up to spec with a Surefire. But on its own, it's more than interesting to take a look at compared to, once again, lights like the other Chinese Surefire knockoffs, or even an Enforce. Enforces are around the same price as this guy, and have had numerous reported issues as far as breakages and failures. And I highly doubt that an Enforce would live through some of the torture tests I've put this light through. So definitely take a look at it right now. I'd give it a thumbs up as far as being usable. It's got some issues and it's got some kinks that you might need to work with, but for the price, it is definitely a cool little toy. And like I said before, if there are any issues with this light, I will make sure to let you guys know. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll be using this probably in some Instagram posts as well, so take a look for those as well in the future. And I've got more reviews coming down the pipeline here very shortly, so don't forget to take a look at those as well. Thanks, guys.